Assalamu alaikum students. How are you? Today today we are moving towards our lecture number 10, class 8th physics. Vectors and scalar. Today we are discussing two physical quantities could be vectors or scalars. Do you know what physical quantities are? Physical quantities are velocity, speed, time, and mass, energy, volume, time. These are all physical quantities. And physical quantities could be of two types, vectors and scalars. What quantities are vectors and what quantities are scalar? Today, this is our main idea of discussion. First of all, we will describe scalars. A scalar is usually said to be a physical quantity that only has magnitude, possibly a sign and no other characteristic. Scalar, listen again, scalar is a physical quantity that only has magnitude but it had no direction. It has no other character than magnitude. For example, volume. Volume is a physical quantity. Number 2, density. Density is also a scalar quantity. You can tell or examine that how much some particular object is dense, but you can't tell about its direction. So is the case with speed. Speed of a body is also a scalar quantity, because suppose you are riding a bike and you are riding a bicycle and its speed is 20 meter per second. In speed, only one thing is being justified, which is the magnitude of the speed, but you are not telling about the direction of the speed, so it is a scalar quantity. Same is the case with energy, mass and time. These are also the scalar quantities. These are the quantities which can only be expressed as magnitude. They don't have direction. Number 2, vectors. A vector is a quantity that has both a magnitude and a direction. Now, the physical quantities which have magnitude, only magnitude, they were called as scalar in the previous slide, but the quantities having both magnitude and direction are called vectors. Vector quantities are important in the study of motion. While you study the motion of an object, you also listen about the direction of that object. So vector quantities are very important in this way. Examples. Some examples of vectors quantities include force. When you apply force, you always apply force in a particular direction. And velocity. You will study about the velocity in the next lecture, and the acceleration, displacement and the momentum. These are all the vector quantities. Representation of a vector. How you represent a vector? Vectors are usually represented by arrows with their length representing the magnitude and their direction represented by the direction of the arrow points. Vectors require both a magnitude and a direction. Magnitude. Vectors are represented by arrows. Arrow mark point their direction. The direction of the arrow shows the direction of the physical quantity, shows the direction of a vector, and the length of the arrow shows the magnitude of the vector. Here is a vector, here is the arrow mark, its direction is towards here, so direction is over here, and the length of its gives its magnitude. So vectors are the quantities, are the physical quantities with magnitude and the direction. Graphical representation of a vector. Graphically, vector can be represented as it x and y axis. Vector is presented on x and y axis, and it makes an angle with the x axis, and direction is shown by the arrow mark. Homework. Write this topic on your notebook. What is difference between vectors and scalars? Write this topic. You are going to write this topic on your notebooks, and you are going to differentiate between the vectors and scalars. Give some you are also going to give some examples of both vectors and scalars. The lecture is ended. Thank you so very much.